Hey everybody, Kenny Conklin here from HobbyLinkInternational.com, and today we're going to take a look at a new tool. This is from Mr. Hobby, their Pro Polisher. I know it looks like an electric toothbrush, but it is not, so don't use it to brush your teeth. My friend Joe Hudson told me about this, and I think I have the perfect kit to test it out on. So let's get over to the bench and check out this tool. Okay, let's look at the G tool from Mr. Hobby. I think it's the Mr. Polisher Pro, but it's not in English over here. So like I said before, this is not a toothbrush. It looks like a toothbrush, but it's not. It's specifically made for the hobby and made for sanding. So let's go over a few of the rules of this thing. It tells you to turn the switch on, gently place the polisher tip onto the material and begin polishing. So you're going to begin sanding. The pads are waterproof, so you'll be able to wet sand with these. The material that you're working with any sander could get hot and you can ruin the material, so you want to be careful. Make sure you're not putting too much pressure on the piece that you're working on. You don't want to burn through it, and you don't want to sit in one spot too long and ruin your piece. Like I said, the sanding pads are waterproof. They come in 220, 400, 600, 800, and 1000. And I'm sure we can make our own sanding pads for this. So I'm going to open it up. We'll put some batteries in it and we'll check it out. So the tool comes with the tool itself. It already has a pad, sanding pad on top here. Comes with 6, 8, and 1000 grit sandpaper. I bought an extra 400. I just got to find the 220s. Now I thought this would just twist off because it has the line here to mark it, but it doesn't twist off. You actually grab it and kind of pull it backwards like that, and it pops out. I don't like that because I have the feeling that's going to break after a while. And then we're just going to take our batteries, put one on one side, put one on the other side, and we're going to put it back in. It does have an O-ring here, so if you are wet sanding, it should keep water out. I'm not saying it's watertight or waterproof because they don't say that on the packaging, but an O-ring will usually keep most of the water out. And then you just line up. There's two little lines here, one here, and snap it in place, and it's good to go. Over here, you have your on and off, and there's a loud click to it. The top one is on, and this guy will start spinning, and then the bottom one is off, and it'll shut this off and we'll be good to go. I'm gonna wet sand because wet sanding is better. It keeps down the friction. We're gonna grab a piece. We're gonna go over to the green mat so we don't ruin the good mat, and we'll see how this works. And I figured since we're gonna be getting back on the 537th Star Trek Enterprise, this would be a great one to test this piece out on because I'm not going to use Bondo again. I'm going to sand all this out. And this is the old kit with all this crazy paneling in here. And of course, there's certain lines you don't want to get rid of, like the grid lines that go across. And there's also some that come down. We just want to get rid of the paneling. So I'm going to start wet sanding this very carefully because there are rounded surfaces to this. And then I'll show you the difference between the original section and the section after we sand it up. So we'll start on this section down here. I'm going to wet it with some of my dirty water from where I clean off my acrylic paintbrushes, but doesn't really matter if it's dirty or not. Just gonna get that a little wet, then I'm gonna wet the tip of this, and then we're gonna start sanding. Okay, it's working pretty well. I'm not sure what grit is on there. They don't tell you. So it's definitely between 6 and 1000. The 220 would easily take this down a lot quicker. And I think I can make my own sanding pads where I could put even coarser sandpaper on there, and we can do this a lot quicker. But this is a nice smooth spot there, and it also took off where it had the little raised piece from the sprue. It took that off easily. And I'm actually going to do that dry. Let's see how easily it takes it off when it's dry. So that took it down nice and quick. Like I said, again, if I get coarser grit sandpaper, I can actually do this a lot quicker. And I'm not putting too much pressure on here because I still have to get used to this tool and see how it does. I'm quite happy with it. And this piece of paper is already coming apart, so they looks like they will run through these quickly. And they're just little stick-ons that stick right on there. So I'm sure I can find some sticky pads like this, or I can even save a sticky pad like this, keep it on here, and then use a little hot glue or something and make my own circle pads over there, and I can do it and get things down quicker. So I'm gonna actually throw a piece of 400 on here just to see how quickly it'll take things down. This is the replacement pad. You just pop the circle off. It came off nice and easy. It has a little piece of paper on the back protecting the glue. Just pop that guy off, spin it around, and put it back on the head. These are foam pads, so they do conform pretty much to the shape of what you're doing. This one's kind of thin. I'm gonna go dry to see on the 400 how quickly it'll take care of some of these grid lines. Or not grid lines, I should say panel lines. Okay, as you saw, this got pretty gunked up, so it's much better to wet sand than go dry on here, because it did take some down, but it didn't take as much as I did while I was wet sanding. This is nice and smooth here. So I want to try this on something else and see how it does. I want to see how this works on the prints. This way maybe I can clean some of this up and use it instead of just using it as a paint mule. I'm going to try right here. There's a little spot that we're going to try to get at. Unfortunately, the head is too big to get in there, so that's going to have to be hand sanded. So I'll try this spot here. So actually that tool worked really well on the resin, the 440. It takes off those layer lines or islands, whatever they call them in 3D printing, but it took those off and smoothed this out nice. Unfortunately, because of the size of the machine, it doesn't fit into all the spots that we would want it to, so some of the stuff still has to be hand sanded down and done up. As you can see, like this was one of my first prints, so it didn't really come out that well. So at least I have another tool for 3D printing and to get rid of a lot of things. So it definitely sands out imperfections. It just has to fit into the place you're trying to do. Otherwise, you're going to have to hand sand still. I do like this sculpture of Batgirl. I'm going to have to print out another one that hopefully comes out much better than my first print. Well, that was the Mr. Hobby polishing tool, or the G tool, whichever way you want to call it. Do you need this tool? No. Is it basically an electric toothbrush? Yes. So you can go out and make your own. I wanted to check out the tool. I didn't want to make my own. This actually is pretty handy. It actually can pop off like a toothbrush, and they sell the separate heads. So if you want to put different sandpapers on them and have them lined up on your desk, you can. If you're interested in this tool, in the description below will be a link to our Amazon shop. We have it on there, so if you want to pick it up from there, you can. And also the extra heads. So is this going to eliminate hand sanding? Absolutely not. You're still going to have to get in corners and stuff, hand sanding. Just makes some tasks a little bit easier, just like with the homemade toothbrush ones people have. Will I do a whole starship with this? No, not at all. It'll be a lot quicker for me to do the starship by hand. What I think this will come in handy for is when I get to the higher grits, the 1200s and stuff like that, I can go over it and polish it and make it really smooth quickly. Same thing on cars or other, military models that we're sanding stuff down. And this is definitely going to come in handy with the 3D prints with the swirl marks, getting those out. And I'll also have to do hand sanding on those too. So if you're interested in this, go check it out. If not, you can make your own at home. So that's the G tool from Mr. Hobby. Thank you very much for stopping by and checking out the video. I hope you're all taking care of yourselves out there, and I shall see you all soon. Take care, and bye-bye, everybody.